All right, hi guys. So this week we're going to look at how to animate props with a character animation. I'm going to keep it simple, like a really simple prop. And I'm going to build on the ninja character that I had. So I'm going to import the sword from Sketchfab. I just went on Sketchfab, type Katana FBX. And I chose super low. I mean, it's still okay to choose a high-res model with a lot of vertices, but I advise you to choose a simple model as much as possible because if you have a lot of vertices and polygons, you're gonna end up a little bit when we get to the skinning. You're going to end up painting a lot of these vertices. So you'll see what I mean further down. So try to be conservative a little bit on the polygons. Like this is really not that bad, if you can see. It's still good. I mean, if you look at it without the wireframe, it's really, really good. Still a good model. Okay. So I'm going to download this. It comes with an FBX. If you download and you don't get the texture right away, try to assign it. If that doesn't work in Maya, try opening it in Blender. A lot of times these models were made in Blender, so you can still get it to work in Blender. Okay. So this is the zip file I downloaded. I'm going to move it to the usual place. Downloads, I'll put it here. Okay, I already had it before, so I'm just gonna delete this 1 second because I was doing some tests. All right, so I'll unzip this folder. And then go in sources. There's another zip file. I'll just unzip it here. So we have a TGA of the texture. That's strange. Doesn't display any of the texture. Anyways, let's try to open this in Maya. I drag and drop. And I put the textures on, everything's there. It's probably, I don't know why it's so dark. And the TGA, maybe my viewer, picture viewer doesn't support TGA, which would be weird. I don't know, doesn't matter. Anyways, you can see the texture here, everything's fine. What we need to do first is fix the scale. So I'm going to open the Ninja model first, characters, Ninja. Wait for the texture to load in. And then I'll merge the katana again. So it should be right here. Shushu. It doesn't matter the name. Looks pretty good actually, the scale. So I'm just gonna put it in his right hand for reference to see if everything is okay, right? But my guess it's more than fine. So rotation is a bit weird. It's probably in the local space. So if I hold down, actually, you know what? I'm gonna launch the shortcut display. So if you hold down rotation key, which is E, oops, and you left mouse click, you can switch between world and object pivot. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to, excuse me, I'm gonna switch to world. Actually, I'm gonna fix this first. The rotation is a little bit weird. Okay, so now even if I switch to object, it's correct. Okay, that's fine. Put it to 90. And I'll try to put it in his hand to see if it's like a right fit. Right? It's really good actually. So we don't need to scale it. By the way, you can use the same exact example. Unless you want to go venture in like I do a, let's say, an army or a cowboy pulling out his gun or something like that. So my example is he's gonna walk, stop, he'll have the sword on his back and he's gonna pull it out. So you can choose the same exact one. Thing is, I don't think all of you will need to use props in your previews, so but this is, I'm really showing you in case you need it. Okay, so scale is good. If it's not, let's say you have to scale it down a little bit. Oops. Let's say you had to scale it down, which is fine. So you see we scaled it by like 0.1%. I'll put it to 0.9 just to, okay. And then what you have to do after this is, if you're in animation tab or workspace, why is it oh, this is the workspace, this is the it's probably the same. If I switch to, sorry, let's switch here, modeling, you have in here, so as you can see, sorry, actually I don't need to switch to modeling, hold on a second. So as you can see here, the scale is now 1. So we need to make it 1. So how do you do that in Maya is you select the mesh, you go to modify, and you go reset X form. You choose the little box to see what are we resetting. So we're resetting rotation, scale, and translation. So we don't, rotation is good. We don't want to reset it because it's already in these coordinates in world space, so it's fine. But what we can do, we can reset the rotation and the scale because we want the scale to be 1, 1. Okay. Before we reset the rotation, I might as well make this flush. What I mean by flush is like instead of having an angle, it's, if you look at it from the front view, it's like you're putting the sword on the ground. So it's like the blade is flush and the handle is flush. Okay, I'll just round it up to 45 degrees because that's probably the angle that it was modeled in. All right, so we just want to reset the rotation and the scale. Okay, so I'll just click reset X form. Oh, sorry, it's not that one. It's freeze rotation. Okay, so I apologize, it's not reset. Reset actually puts it where it was created from. I always mix those up. So it's freeze transforming, which makes sense because you want to freeze the rotation values and the scale values back to, rotation back to 0 and scale back to 1. Okay. Don't worry too much about these. So just uncheck translate and click apply. So see now the rotation is 0 and the scale is 1. So now we can take it to the next step. because otherwise if you keep the 0.9 values, you might get into trouble after when you're skinning and doing stuff like that. So it's better just to reset. Okay. So now we have the good scale. The texture is fine. So we can put it to 0, 0, back to 0, 0. And I want to save this. I want to save just the sword by itself. Okay. I don't want anything else with it, because I want to rig the sword by itself so I can save it by itself and then bring it in with the ninja. By the way, if your pivot, let's say you choose another object. So if your pivot, let's say, is a little bit off like this, the quickest way to center it is you go to Modify, Center Pivot. It will probably center it in the center of the mesh. And after that, you can take the pivot and just put it at the bottom of the handle, okay? Because that's kind of the 0, 0 of the object, right? It starts from the handle, okay? Afterwards, we can just move it here. Let me see. Okay, so if you have to do that, there's one thing we need to do. So we need to bake pivot, and then move it to 0, 0. So what does bake pivot do is it keeps the pivot in the world coordinate, and then you move it to 0, 0 properly. Okay, I know it's a little confusing, but just follow the steps and you'll be fine. Okay, so now we can save. Actually, we could just export selection. We can export it as a Maya file, which is fine. I've never exported as Maya, so let's check if we are good. So we're working in setup, everything's fine. Let's try export. So I'm gonna go up and create a prop folder. Props. Okay, just in case you decide to add 2 props or 3 props, it's better to be organized from the get-go. So katana. I'm gonna save this just in case. I'll save it in characters again. Ninja with katana. Okay. And now I can open the katana by itself. And start rigging it, adding bones, adding a bunch of stuff. Okay. All right, I'm just going to check if it's still in centimeters. Yeah. I'll check if, yeah, it's good. It's 141. So if I put the box on the tip of the sword, it's about 1 meter and something, 111 centimeters. So we're still good. Okay, so we have the mesh, we have the textures, everything is there. First, I'm gonna rename this to katana. And what do we need to skin this prop? So we need bones. The first thing we need to do, just check, I'm just checking the translation rotation, everything is zeroed out, so we're good. So the first thing we need to do is to create bones to be able to deform and animate this prop, okay? So if we go in rigging and bones, and always do the bones in an isometric. What an isometric is: top view, front view, or side view. So you can do it in either, whatever you're comfortable with, but I usually like to do it in top view because when I lay down the bones, it's already flat on the ground. And what I mean by flat is, so I just created two joints. You just basically do this. You click on this. See? You can end by right-clicking and then deleting this. Or what you could do is you could just click and then click translation. So that ends the creation part of the joints. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna create a small layer and call it Katana Mesh. Okay. I'm gonna hide it for now so you guys can see the bones. So the bones are inside, right? If you want to make them bigger, you can select the three joints, and in here you just type radius, you increase the number. Okay, so now you can see it a little bit better. See here? So joints are basically the same as the one we brought in from Mixamo, right? So look, these are the joints. You can rotate them, you can do whatever you want. So I created just three joints. The root, which is the same, it's the same principle as the Mixamo rig. We need the root, which is at 0, 0. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to zero this out. And then the second one is the handle. This is probably going to be the most we use. And I created a third one. Depending on time, I might show you how to use this to like scale the blade, so you can have a scale constraint on the. Well, we'll see if we have time at the end. I'm not 100% sure, but scale is not important. What we are looking mostly for, translation and rotation on the prop. Okay. It's a little bit different for the scale. Okay. So we have the bones. Let's name them properly because we need to be we need to start thinking about that. So joint one is root. So I'm going to call this root. And this one we'll call it handle. And this one we'll call it tip. We might as well create a namespace. I believe it's in general, namespace. Create a new one called Katana. And then we apply it to the three joints and the mesh. Okay, that's it. There we go. Great. So now we have the joints, we have the mesh. It's time to bind them, which is what we call deformation. So binding in Maya is you deform the mesh with the joints. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to rigging because the skin menu is not available in the animation workspace, so it's as simple as switching to rigging here, workspace. So see, now we have a skin menu, and there's the binding object. Okay. So how do we bind? We select the joints, we select the mesh, and we go skin, bind, options. Always use the options. I'm going to reset to default. So I'm going to keep everything by default except this one, maximum influence. So what is maximum influence? It's maximum per bone. Each bone can only influence 5 vertices. Okay. I think that's the one. I'm not actually, no, it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure what this is, but to be 100% sure, the number has to be 4 because some game engines have a limitation. So we need to bring it down to 4. So once you open the bind skin, type in 4 and go apply and close. Okay, so now if we try to move the handle joint, see, it starts deforming, but the vertices are all, it's not exactly what we want, right? If we move the tip too, it's only moving the vertices here. So what do we do? But if we move the root, everything is fine because most of the vertices are following the root. Okay? But what we want is the handle, this one, the handle joint to be moving everything. So at this stage, we need to take the skin and paint the weights of the vertices that are being affected by each bone. Okay, so how do we do this? So we go in skin, paint skin weights. It's exactly what I said. Options. So I'm resetting the tool because by default you have this black and white kind of color scheme when you open the paint skin weight tool. Okay. What you see here is the 3 joints. If you select the root, you'll see the white area is the mostly affected by the root joint. If I select the handle, that's what's affecting it. It's not actually, it's actually gray. So if you want a better representation, so there's a gradient, right, from black to white. White, pure white, is it's affecting 100%. Black, it's not affecting anything. And in the middle is gray, so it's affecting it like 50%. So if you go down here, gradient, and you check off the use color ramp, you will see a better representation of what each bone is affecting. Okay, so red is the highest, and as you can see here, is it the opposite? I think. Yeah, red is the highest because when we were moving this bone, none of the sword was affecting. So red is the highest. It's like a heat map, if you guys know what it is. Yeah, that makes sense. So what we need to do is we need to paint manually what the handle is, which vertices it's affecting on the sword. Okay, so we select the handle bone, we go in here, there's a couple of different brushes. I'll switch back to black and white. I think it's a better representation, it's less noisy. There's a couple of brushes here. There's Gaussian, soft brush, and solid brush. I like the solid brush because there's no kind of soft edges to it, so you're kind of painting right away. The two sliders we're gonna work with the most is these two, the opacity and the value. So what is the value? The value is how much you're painting on the vertices, okay? So if I keep these values by default, opacity at 1, value at 1, and I start painting here, actually, is it working? Okay, let's choose the dark ones here, okay? So I've selected the handle joint. So if I start painting here, see, I start affecting these areas. If I choose opacity 0.3 or something like that, see, it's more soft. It's softer. The assination is a bit softer. Okay. Now, if I choose a value of 0 and I start painting, nothing happens. So where do you need to use this? Here. If by mistake, so the default type of painting is replaced. So you're adding, okay? Where is it? You're adding more vertices. If you do a mistake and you want to subtract, you have to put this to 0 and select scale. Let me see. So now I'm subtracting, okay? Subtracting from the white areas, okay? It's a little weird sometimes. Yeah, it depends where you actually paint. So just keep trying. So you can increase the radius. You know, you see this little red circle. So you can increase this by going in here in stroke and just maximizing it. See, it becomes a lot bigger. The shortcut, if you don't want to always go to here to make it bigger and smaller, if you press and hold B and you move the mouse left and right, see, you make it bigger. Okay, so either B or changing the slider. See, when I let go, it updates the radius. Okay, so for the handle joint, we want to add all these black spots, the black vertices. So what do? We put it back to 1. I'll keep the opacity as is, and I'll change my painting because I was subtracting. I'll change it to add or replace, doesn't matter, but you can try add. Add is the same thing. So I just paint. See, you need to be, some areas you cannot reach, so you need to sometimes rotate your view and just keep painting. Okay, keep painting. Like here, you see it's gray, so we need to paint over it. See, it's not pure white, so we need to paint as much as possible. Okay, same thing here on the other side. See, it's hard to tell. See, let's say in the inside, it's hard to tell if it's gray or white. So if you're having a hard time, use the heat map. See, then you can see where you need to paint white, pure white. You can just click. You don't have to paint like a paintbrush. You could just click and it will update. So I'm missing a couple of spots here. See here the small crevice here. Oops, If you deselect by mistake, just select it again. Select the mesh and go to, yeah, just zoom out a little bit. We're still adding, yeah. So see here, maybe try to make it smaller, or maybe go on top and paint like this. Okay, yeah, sometimes you have to paint other parts to affect these parts, because the face is more visible here. So try different spots sometimes to get to that difficult section. See here, I'm painting here, nothing happens. So if I paint here, then it happens because these faces are the same as here. Same thing here. We're gonna miss probably a couple, and so I'll show you how to fix that in a few seconds. This is probably a difficult one here. You can make it bigger now. So when I'm adding it to the handle joint, I believe, I'm not a skinning expert, but I believe you're subtracting it from the root bone at the same time. So when we're finished, we can actually test it to see if the root bone is still affecting. See, I was clicking here, but I had to click here to make these white. Save. Often. I'm gonna leave maybe a small part on purpose, just to show you how, if you missed a couple, how to fix it. Okay, so I'll leave this spot and show you how to fix it. There's this small part. I can go smaller, just paint it. See, skinning is fun. Depends what you mean by fun. Okay, I believe it's green because it's being affected by the top bone. So let's see what we have so far. Okay. So now, if I move the handle joint, see, we missed a couple here too. So how do we fix this? We fix it by temporarily animating the bone. We're gonna have to delete the keys after, okay? So we put a key on frame 0, and then we move, let's say 20 frames down, and we move the bone up. Okay, and then we put a key. So we have kind of an animated sequence. Then we select the mesh again, and skin bind options. And now make sure the handle is on, add, and we keep painting until it moves up with the bone. See, there's probably here, yeah, see, it's kind of light blue. So if we paint this, it goes up. Maybe I have to go down. Maybe it's on the other side sometimes. Okay. So We missed this one too. See, problem fixed. There we go. So so now if we can, yeah, I think we're running out. I was going to show you how to, you could do the same thing with this bone. You can take the sword, the blade part, and assign it only to this bone. But it's actually, we're running a bit out of time. So for this tutorial, I'm not gonna show you how to use the scale, because if I want to show you the scale, I would have painted the blade vertices to this bone only, so you can move it up and down. Okay, so we're good with this. So if we try to move the handle bone, oh, we still have problems. How come? Oh, isn't? Oh. Oh my. Okay, what's going on here? If we move it, oh. Okay, I'll pause it, see what's going on. Okay, so I think it's because of the key, it was freaking out, so we're gonna have to delete the keys after. Anyways, I found a small problem. There was a little bit more in here, so if you look, I'm gonna go to this key. And just so you can see it better. So see here, there's another vertices we missed. So I'll put a key here, select the mesh again, and paint those vertices again. So this one, you know what? I'm just gonna paint the whole thing white, so we don't have more problems. So add opacity value 1. Boom. I'll make this bigger and I'll just paint the whole thing. It's fine. Since we're not going to have time to show you the scale because we're running out of time. So that should be good now. So if I select the handle key and delete those keys, now if I move the handle, yes, we got it. Okay, so we're good. The rotation as well. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we're ready. You think you're ready to animate this, but we shouldn't be animating the joints. What we should be animating is the handle, just like a control rig, just like the Maxamo rig. Once we put it in, we don't actually animate the joints. We need to create simple controllers, which are the shapes here, the curves in space, surface. You can choose circle all the time, I don't mind. That's the default one everybody uses anyway. So I'm gonna create, we're gonna create shapes and assign the joints, to those shapes, and those shapes will be our controllers. Okay. So best thing to do is scale this up so we can see it properly. It's a good size. So it should be this one, the root controller should be already lined up with the root bone. But what do we have? Because we scaled it, we have 6.6 scale, so we need to freeze this transformation as well. What do we freeze? We only need the scale, so we go apply. So now it's the right scale. We can duplicate this. So this shape is assigned to the root bone. It shouldn't be moving in the space. It should be at 0, 0. So we're just going to duplicate, Control D, and assign this to the handle bone. Okay. We don't have to transform. Sorry. We don't have to freeze transform this. We can keep it at 90. But what we need to do, super important, is we need to align the shape pivot with the joint pivot. They have to be right on top of each other. Otherwise, you're going to have some offsets while you're animating. Okay. So I'm going to hide the mesh because we need to, as you can see, it's a little bit off. We need to align it. The best way to do this, if you look at it here, snap to projected center, snaps the center to the selected object. Okay. Let's try it. I've never tried it. So the shortcut with the snapping objects to another object, if you hold down, oh, we lost the shortcut. Sorry, this application keeps, sometimes it's just freezing and shutting down by itself. So you put this snap tool on and you press V, okay, and then you just move it to, I'll do it again, you move it to where the joint is, okay, and you can start from the middle. So hold down V and just move it to that joint. So now if we select the joint and we select the shape, see? They're right on top of each other. They're aligned, okay? So now we have a controller for the root, a controller for the handle. So let's name them. I'll name it control root, and this one control handle. Okay, good. So what do? We need to, the same as the joints, we need to make the handle child of the root. So middle mouse, drag. So now if we move this, that's good. The next step we need to do is we need to make the joints constraint to the handle. Okay, we should not parent it, because if something goes wrong with the katana or with your prop, you can always delete the controllers and it will not affect the joint. Okay, if you parent it like a normal parent to the joints and you decide to delete them, it will be affecting your skin. So you probably have to redo the skin. So constraint is always, a parent constraint is always preferable with the rig controls. Okay. So the way rig, parent constraints work, if I remember, you need to select the parent first, and then the joint, which is the child. Okay, so the controller, which is the pair, will be the parent, and then the child. Keep everything by default, doesn't matter. I think it is by default. Yeah. If we click apply and then try to move the root controller, oops. So now everything moves. But if we move this one, nothing happens. So we need to do the same with the handle. So handle and then joint. Apply. So now if you move this one, there we go. So it's moving, but the root is where it should be at 0, 0, just like the mix ammo rig. Okay, so now we can animate. So what I'm going to do, we're pretty much done the katana rig. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to load the katana into the into our Ninja, right? And start animating. We can actually export this to Unreal. So let's do that. So we have, actually, let's put the, yeah, we can, just to be consistent, we can put a namespace as well to the controllers. That should be good. So rotation, we're good. So we can export all of this. Export selection for all. We'll export to FBX. Did I create my assets? Okay, we can export it here. Right, what's in the props folder? What did we put? Dawson, F21, my assets. So I'll make a new folder. That's going to be better. Props exported. We will call this katana. And we only need the geometry, right? We keep the smoothing groups. We don't need animation for now. And what do we make sure is the setup is correct. Setup, export. What is the 12 representative complex animation? I did not export animation. Okay, we'll see what that thing is. Sorry, I had a small test, so I'm just gonna delete this. And inside, so I loaded up the same week 2, or actually week 4, if you remember the, oh no, this is gonna take a while. Yeah, I loaded up the same project, so you can load up the same project as well. Actually, I'm just gonna load week 2 because I'll save this actually as another map. So week 5, save current level as, so I don't mess up my previous weeks. Week 5. Okay, it's going to be the same base. I'm just going to put a character here, put an animation, put a camera, so we can use the same. In content, I'm going to create the same setup, props, and in here, I'll create, just in case we guys do more than one prop, so I'll call this katana. It's the same thing with the characters. If you have more than one character, it's always better. So prop exported, katana, bring that in. If you reset by defaults, just make sure the same thing we did with the character, the Mixamo character, you need to use in here the options. You saw the little arrow here. And you just choose use T0 as ref, okay? And then you click import. Just ignore it for now. So if we open the skeletal mesh, the pink file, pink icon, there we go. We have our sword, and we should have, sorry, the textures are loading up. So you have the root, the handle, and the tip bone, which we're not going to use probably. I'll leave it running, and I'll start going to Maya to bring in this to the Ninja file. I'll open the Ninja. And I'll bring in my Katana, the Maya file, Katana Maya. Bring that in. So we're gonna have double names. It's the way Maya works, unfortunately. It doesn't really matter because when you export this to Unreal, it deletes the namespace, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so first thing, I'm gonna bring in some animations from Mixamo. So just a couple of, where's Mixamo? I think it's in here. Mixamo. So I'm looking for three animations. I'll look for a draw sword and, well, two. Run stop, let's say, or walk stop, and then maybe a draw. So I'll look for the draw first. Wow, it's really cooking. Okay, so finally we have the shaders. Everything is fine. I'll save this before. Wow, okay, leave it running. So let's see if we have a draw. Oh, draw a great. What does that do? That's not bad, but for some reason it's only the beginning. Is this the first part? Ah, yes. So she's going from idle, and then part 2. Okay. So we need those two animations. So download without skin. So this is probably draw sword 1, and this one is draw sword 2. Yeah. So I need just maybe a walk stop. Let's see. I understand why in a bit. Stop walking. Yeah, that's not bad. That's good. Download. Go to my download folder. So we have these 3. I'll move them to F21, downloads, Mixamo. I'll just dump it in here. Okay, go back in Maya. And I'm gonna switch back to animation. And if you don't have the tab, it's the human IK tab here. And I'm gonna do a really quick time editor animation, right? So I'm gonna need to switch to none, which is skeleton mode. I'll add my character. I don't need the T-pose, and I'll bring in. Please, guys, remember always to use the same character you're using in Maya to bring in the animation. Don't try to bring it in with the mannequin or something, because he's a different scale. Okay, so it might affect your scale in Maya. Okay. All right. So stop walking first. Yes. So he stops. We'll bring in the second one. Draw sword part 1, sorry. Just give me a second. All right, so we'll bring in second one. Okay, and then the third one. So we'll just increase this. So now we'll just need to move these. You guys remember how? Kind of, oh, I don't think we used match last time. Match poses. We need still to create a locator. That's fine. Okay, so I'll put the ghosting on this one. So this would be the last pose. And create a locator on this one. And just move it to match. The poses don't match exactly, but what we can do, we can blend it, right? So we can blend this on top, so we get a little smoother blend into it. Okay, we'll have to do the same thing with this. Create a locator, show ghosting. Oh, it's the same thing. And just move it here. So these are really the same pose, so they should blend super well, right? Because they did part 1 and they did part 2, so we just need to make sure we're in the right space. I think there is a way to use matching, but I can't figure it out for some reason. You can use the bones to match more precisely. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay, we'll just wing it for now. He's moving forward to match. Sideways, let's see. Same thing. So we'll just move it. It's a lot better. A little bit over. So let's see how it looks. Turn off the ghosts. Oh, that's good. Okay. So I'll just move it to 0, 0. I've got it maybe at 130 just to keep that last pose, right? I'll make sure to use the same time as the track editor. There we go. Nice. Okay. So we can bake this. So we can go to here, bake to skeleton. Selected hierarchy. Let's try that. See what happens. And then if we turn off the time editor, actually before we do that, let's save our scene. I'm gonna put it in anims. Okay, so Ninja, sorry, week 5. My name, Ninja and Katana. So I know what that thing is. Okay. So it's working. We can bake on the control rig if you would like to edit the motion. I'm not going to edit it. I think it's fine as is. But I need the control rig for a couple of reasons. Is because we're going to create controllers on the back and on the hand to be able to attach the sword. Okay, you'll find out in a bit. And we need to attach it to the control rig because we cannot attach anything to the skeleton, to the joints. Because if we attach it to the joints, then Unreal is going to complain that we added something, we parented something to it. Okay. Okay, so what do we do? First hand, we take the handle controller, we take it up here to the back. And let's say we go to the position where he grabs the sword. Okay. Oh god, the finger's a little bit broken. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna go fast a little bit, so I apologize. So he kind of grabs it on this pose. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna move the sword to here and rotate it down and kind of make it fit like it's on his back, okay? And make it fit in the hand, obviously, because he needs to grab it, right? So let's say this is the position kind of on his back before he actually detaches it and grabs it from the back. So we're gonna create a locator. We're gonna create a locator. If we go and create, let's see if I think joints maybe. Could be a shape too. I don't know where the locator is. So what is a locator? It's just a cross, a simple node that you can do. You can use it. We use it a lot of times to align it to objects and pivots. So what you could do is right now we can align it to the pivot of this. Okay, so make sure that the pivot of the handle of the controller. Make sure this is on. So we choose, hold down V. Oops. Hold down V and select the center and align it to the handle. It's probably not aligning because it's kind of confusing itself with the vertices of the mesh. Okay. Just want to try something. Okay, so I want to see if the pivot is the same in local, and it's not. See, we need to rotate it as well. So how do you align? We need to align this to okay, so unfortunately, I could not find a way to align rotations from the controller to the pivot. So we'll have to input after we move. We snap to the pivot point of the shape controller. As you can see, it doesn't match the rotation. It's a little bit like rotation wise, the rotation is still 0, while the rotation values of the controller is different than 0. So we'll need to copy these values to the null. And the reason we're doing this is we want to be in the same rotation in case we need to animate that null. Let's say there's some adjustments of the sword on its back. We could do that, but it has to be aligned perfectly. Okay, so we have the null for the holster on the back once the sword is on his back. What we could do as well, I just noticed that the sword is, the blade is on this side, while it should be probably on the other side. So I'm just going to rotate. I'm going to rotate the null 180, so it's the correct rotation. Okay. Okay, so we have, we're probably going to need to rotate let's see, just type it. Yeah, it's probably changed. So just copy back the values. From the controller to the, so So now if you select move, see they match. It's the same exact orientation and position. Okay, so what are we going to do with this null? I'm going to duplicate it because we need another one for the hand. So I'm just going to duplicate it. So I'll call this locator locator back, and then I'll duplicate it. Edit, duplicate. I'll call it locator hand because we're going to attach the sword, the handles, sword handle to the hand once it's attached. Okay. So I'll select the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just parent constrain it to one of the controllers of the rig. Okay, so I'm going to put these on. I don't see the control rig, so I'm just going to hide the mesh a little bit. So I have the locator back selected, and I'm just going to choose, let's say, I believe the spine. This is the spine. Chest and controller, yeah. So select it again. When parenting, I believe is you select the child and then the parent, and you go P. Did I lose my? I believe I did. So I'll do it again. So select the child, select the parent, and just press P. So now what happens is when I move, see he's walking with that null on his back. We'll go back to frame 98, and what we're going to do with the second controller is we're going to parent it to the hand, because we want, the idea is the sword handle will be attached to the null on the back for the walk, and once he grabs it with the hand, we switch the constraint from the back locator to the hand locator. I know it's a little bit not easy to understand, but bear with me, you'll see the process soon. Okay, so we're gonna parent the hand locator to the hand controller of the biped. So shift select, press P. And now if I move forward, as you can see, the hand locator follows the hand. Okay, so that's what we want. Okay, so now you tell me, okay, the sword is still not moving. So the last step missing is we need to add what we call a parent constraint. What we've been doing is just regular parenting. Okay. Parent constraint will allow you to have more than one parent. So the sword handle will be sometimes controlled by the back locator and sometimes controlled by the hand locator. Okay. So the way you add a parent constraint is you have to select the parent first, and then the child. Okay, so we'll go to reveal selected. So we have our hand controller child of the right hand and the back controller child of the chest. Look, chest effector on the controller. Okay, so let's do the back first because we want to see him walk with the sword. So we can unhide the mesh to see the full result with the character. So I'm going to select the driver, which is basically the back locator, and I'm gonna select the controller for the sword, and I'll go Constraint, Options, Parent Options, and I'll just go Add. So now if I go down to the controller, I will see under the controller something called Constraint. Okay, so there's a little option inside this in the attributes that we have to turn off. Okay, so if you look here in the channel box, here, if we open that up, attribute error, sorry, not the channel box. In constraint attribute, there's here you need to turn this off, enable rest position, because what happens is every time we switch constraints, we switch from the back locator to the hand locator, it's gonna snap, so we need to disable the rest position. Okay, so we're just gonna click it. And then if we select the handle, what do you see here is this is the actual constraint we're going to animate. So locator back has a value of 1, which it means it's always following it, see? Even when he picks it up, see? It's following, so our first step is done basically. What we need now is to add a second constraint under the same handle and attach it to the hand after on frame 98. Okay, so let's say on frame 97, we can key this value, and on frame 98 we don't want it anymore, so we put it to 0 and we key it. So from frame 0 to frame 97 it's on, right? The value is 1, and on frame 98 it's 0. So now see, it doesn't follow anymore, but what we need to do instead, we need to assign the hand locator for it, and we do the same thing. We select the driver, which is the right hand locator, and we shift select the handle, and we go again add parent constraint. So see here, when I select the handle, it added the second constraint. So all you could have, I'm not sure how many numbers, but everything will be under the sword handle. So now we can switch them. So what do we want to animate? We want to, on frame 98, we want to actually key that because we want it to be 1. But on frame 97, we don't want it because we want it to follow the back locator. So this is, as you can see, this is how you animate props. I'm gonna try to fix the fingers that are bothering me. They're kind of broken. Let me finish this first. So as you can see on the pickup, it's fine, right? You can actually animate the locators to make it like kind of fit better in his hand, right? So let's say on this frame it's okay. You go forward and you want to make it slide down a little bit or make it snug with his thumb, right? You can actually rotate it too. So because when it's constrained, when the handle, the sword handle is constrained to the locators, you cannot animate it anymore. You have to animate the locators. Okay. So as you can see, kind of we just like faked and put it in his thing or in his hand properly. Before we export, so that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a really nice way because you don't have to worry too much about baking and unbaking and putting everything. Because any slight changes now to the body animation will be reflected because the sword is following the right locators, right? So you don't have to worry about keys on the sword. So let me try to fix the fingers because it's really bothering me. Body part, and if we delete, let's say, even here it's broken. So let's say delete all these. Yeah, it's all right. It's better than it was before. Can kind of try to keyframe this. Select these fingers, rotate, maybe move a little bit. Ugh. Why they're so maybe there's a weird rotation on. Anyways, I think it's getting late, so let's just close this. So now we're actually ready to export. I'm gonna save this scene, and all we need to export is the skeleton on the ninja file. Export selection, choose FBX, and where do we put it? We put it anims exported. Let's call it week5 ninja, and we want animation and bake from 10 to 30 and export. We need to export the character alone and the sword alone because we need to import them separately because they're on both different skeletons, right? So select the root, select the hierarchy, export. week5 ninja katana, and we go on Unreal, and we import, let's say first the F21, my assets, export it, week5 ninja. So we choose obviously the ninja, import. Let's check the animation just in case. There we go. And we can import the katana as well here. We don't need to import it in another folder, it's okay. Katana skeleton. So now we choose the skeleton for the katana because it's a different skeletal mesh. And let's see what that looks like. Nice. I think he's pointing, maybe it's pointing the wrong way. Let's check in Maya super quick. Yeah, it's pointing upside down. So we can fix this, right? So we can, sorry, not the locate, not the handle, because we can't, if we try to move this now, it'll probably freak out. Oh, maybe not. I thought, I think as soon as I put a key, it's gonna freak out. Yeah, see, it breaks the constraint. So don't animate the handle, animate the locator. So we need to animate the dislocator. So let's say it's good here, and here it kind of starts, maybe he rotates it in his hand, for example. I'm gonna fake it a little bit, that's okay. Ooh. Yeah, yeah. That's not good. It's rotating the wrong way. Okay, you know what? Just make sure it's rotated. I think it was correct in here. It's correct in here. Maybe in my. Let me see it. It's upside down. Okay, I'll have to look into that. It's okay. I mean, if you're getting the same problem, it's okay. I'll have to look into that. Why is it? Seems okay in Maya. See, the blade is, edge of the blade is like this, but in Unreal it's turned upside down. Okay, so let's make a quick sequence so you guys can render. So cinematics, add level sequence, sequencer. We'll call it week 5 props, week 5 props. What do we want to add? So the ninja is already here, so we can add the ninja actor, right? And we want to add so the easiest way, if you want to add the katana, is you drop it on the screen and you put it to 0, 0. Same thing with the ninja, put him to 0, 0. Now, if we go back to the sequencer, whatever you have selected in the viewport, you go add track, actor sequence, it will show up here on top, whatever you have selected. So now we have katana and the ninja. You can add now the animation. So there's only one animation for the katana, and you can add the animation for, there's one from week 2, one from week 5, so we're going to add the week 5. So now if we press play, everything should be lining up, but they're going through the floor. Oh boy, why is it going through the floor? Oh, it's because of this. I probably moved the floor in week 2 or week 3 or something like that. There we go. Good. So that's it. Either make a camera, if you guys want to make a camera out of this. Doesn't really matter, it could be a still shot as long as I see the prop. So we'll just change this to film. Why does it do that all the time? Shouldn't be that zoomed in. Anyway. Okay, maybe by default it's like this. It's really zoomed in. Okay, so what happens if we play it now? Okay, so we can end it at, I believe it was 130, so we'll drag this to 130. And is the beginning okay, or is it in T-pose? No, frame 0 is good. Okay, so let's render this. AVI 30, 16 by 9, yeah, compression, all good. So week 5. So I remember what it is. Save all. I believe it should be good. There you go. Cool. That's it, guys. So submit the AVI and we're done. Make sure you save all for next time. Save all. I think we just did. Let's do it again. All right. See you in class.